In the pantheon of accidental discoveries, penicillin, Velcro, microwaves, one stands out above the rest for how stupidly terrifying it is. A film company, not a spy agency or a rogue physicist, but a film company, Kodak specifically, discovered one of the greatest secrets of the 20th century. All because they noticed something weird with their cardboard. This is a story about nuclear fallout, backroom deals, and how Kodak accidentally stumbled into the blast radius of America's nuclear program and kept it all a secret, while the rest of the country got dosed. I'm King Trout, and if the stories my siblings tell me are true, my parents found me in a dumpster outside of Chicago in 1993. Let's take it back a little bit. Before the digital age, Kodak was everything. They didn't just sell film, they owned the entire pipeline, from the camera to the darkroom until your pretty little face is hanging on your grandma's wall. And in 1945, Kodak wasn't just making film for, snapshots of birthday parties and national parks and all that. They were also producing X-ray film. What is X-ray film? It's the film used for X-rays. Duh. Primarily used in hospitals, it is a finely calibrated, incredibly sensitive type of film. Even the tiniest amount of exposure to any radiation will ruin it. Unless that radiation is X-rays being sent through a human body onto the X-ray film, which is what it was designed for, but I think you understand what I mean. To protect this very delicate film during shipping, Kodak used high-quality cardboard made of purified materials, which was manufactured primarily in Iowa, a state home to a certain fat electrician we know, and Indiana, a state home to a certain skinny carpenter that we know. These boxes were also lined with lead and inspected religiously, so when all of a sudden out of nowhere, the film started showing up already exposed, already ruined, Kodak went, In the summer of 1945, Kodak began getting reports from hospitals that the film had showed up already pre-exposed. Ruined, the emulsions were showing clear signs of radiation, but before the boxes had even been opened. That didn't make any sense, so Kodak launched an internal investigation to find the source of this radioactive contamination. And then they found out the source was the cardboard. Their cardboard was radioactive, and I don't mean, oops, a little radon gas radioactive. They found the cardboard had already been embedded with the radioactive isotope iodine-131. Kodak's scientists continued to investigate and found the source of the radioactive iodine was the water that these paper mills were using, which came from the Mississippi River. Scientists working for Kodak, the film company, discovered that the Mississippi River was tainted with the radioactive isotope iodine-131. The thing about iodine-131 is it can only come from one place: nuclear fission. And during the summer of 1945, the process of nuclear fission was one that was thought to only be theoretically possible. So the scientists at Kodak thought for a second and went, wait a minute. Oh shit. The scientists traced the wind and precipitation patterns and found out that somewhere a little bit ago in New Mexico, someone had achieved nuclear fission. They had accidentally discovered the success of the first nuclear detonation. They had also incidentally discovered the effects of nuclear fallout irradiating the United States of America. And they were pissed. Not for moral, ethical, or safety reasons, they were pissed because it was ruining their very valuable film. Kodak immediately took this discovery straight to Washington. And what they got back was silence. At this point in time, the Manhattan Project was still top secret. Despite the fact that the bombs had already been dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the government wanted all the information related to nuclear testing kept tightly under wraps. Didn't want those pesky Soviets getting their hands on it. Thanks, Rosenbergs.
Yay!
When Kodak asked the government, hey, why is your top secret super bomb ruining our X-ray film? The government's response was essentially, that's crazy. Kodak didn't buy it, but they didn't have to. They had all the evidence right in front of them. They had the isotopic signatures. They had the supply chains pinpointed. They knew. Instead of going public with this information, which honestly probably would have got them disappeared, they sat in silence and waited. And so did the government. Until the next batch of nuclear tests. By the 1950s, the US had moved on from testing bombs in New Mexico to full-scale nuclear trials in Nevada. These were the Atmospheric Test Series, and they have some of the dumbest names for any military operations I've ever heard. They are Operation Ranger, which, I mean, that's fine. Ford fucking Ranger. Operation Tumbler Snapper, okay, and Operation Upshot Knothole. Operation Backshot Butthole. Big bombs, big fallout. And again, Kodak started noticing that their film was being ruined. And again, Kodak traced these isotopes on wind currents into the water supply, contaminating their cardboard. But this time, Kodak played it smart. They went to the Atomic Energy Commission and said, look, guys, we know what you're doing, you know what you're doing, and really, we don't give a shit. If you could just let us know before you nuke the sky so we can move some things around to keep our film from being ruined, that would be great. To which the government responded, okay. Seriously, they agreed. They signed an informal agreement where the AEC would inform Kodak ahead of these nuclear tests so that they could change their logistics to keep the film from being contaminated. They just, don't sue us and don't tell the press. Kodak had just made a private fallout pact with the United States government, and the public was kept in the dark. Which, the reason that's important is because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but nuclear fallout is not good for you. Shocking, I know. And just to be clear, Kodak wasn't just detecting radiation, they were actively tracking it. They built fallout logs, they measured isotopic ratios, they tracked weather patterns to predict where this nuclear debris would fall. In 1951, they detected radiation in Rochester, New York, 2,000 miles away from the nuclear testing site. In 1953, they traced strontium-90 in their packaging materials. Strontium-90 is what is called, and this is a metal name, a bone seeker. Because it finds and binds itself to human bones. Calcium is a bone seeker. It accumulates in human bones, makes them stronger. Strontium-90 does the exact same thing, essentially, only instead of making your bones stronger, it gives you cancer. They were seeing a nationwide pattern of radiation drift, all while the US government assured everyone, don't worry about those nuclear tests, they're totally safe. Kodak was well aware of the irradiation of the entirety of the United States, just quietly rerouting their shipments, like smuggling contraband across a war zone, because in a way, they kind of were. Meanwhile, people living downwind from these test sites, cutely referred to as downwinders, mainly in Arizona, Utah, and Nevada, were developing strange illnesses. Thyroid cancer, leukemia, birth defects, and these weren't isolated cases, these were entire communities. Communities who had literally been told to sit back and enjoy the show in some cases. I'm not even joking, the government would tell them, like, you throw out a picnic bench and watch the blast like it's a freaking firework.
Hotel casinos would host atomic parties on their rooftops. Guests would drink until dawn and finish their evening with a nuclear blast.
These people were told at the insistence of the United States government that everything was totally fine. And Kodak knew that it wasn't. But they didn't say anything. They didn't blow the whistle. Their priority was not protecting lives. It was protecting film. What up, gangsters? I realized while editing the video, I really didn't emphasize the fact enough that the US government knew about the effects of nuclear fallout. That's why when Kodak approached them, they weren't like, whoa, what? We're irradiating the country? Instead, they went, they knew about it enough to the fact that in a weird, freakish tooth fairy kind of way, they asked people in the communities that were affected, the downwinders, if they could please have their children's baby teeth so they could examine the strontium-90 in them. And they looked at them and they went, holy shit, these kids are radioactive as fuck. Sorry, I scared some bats. So yeah, the government was well aware what they were doing was negatively impacting the country, especially those communities. Just wanted to put that out there. It wasn't until decades later that the truth finally began to leak out. There were congressional hearings, declassified fallout maps, and the 1990 Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. By this point in time, tens of thousands of Americans had already been heavily exposed to nuclear fallout as a result of these tests, and many had died. Tucked into the background of this tragedy, a camera company from Rochester, New York, who had discovered the truth decades prior, but decided to keep it to themselves. When Kodak noticed something was wrong, they did something to fix it for themselves, while simultaneously keeping quiet about the fact that the entire country was being irradiated. Not to get all gay and poetic about it, but it's kind of ironic. Film is meant to capture the truth. Light flashes onto it and a moment is preserved. A wedding, a birthday party, or a hospital scan. But in this case, film captured something nobody wanted to see. That the government was poisoning the country, that fallout doesn't stop at state lines, and that radioactive dust doesn't give a shit if you're a film company or a farmer. Kodak recorded the evidence, but decided to keep it to themselves. In the end, Kodak became an accidental historian for a secret war, a Cold War. They didn't publish, they didn't protest, but they knew, which raises a terrifying question. If Kodak hadn't captured this radiation, would anyone have? Sometimes history is written by the victors. Sometimes it's captured by people just trying to make some money. Now, I'm not trying to lecture or morally grandstand. I don't know why I'm doing Trump hands right now. I'm just trying to tell this story so that we can learn the same lesson we learn in every single one of my YouTube videos, which is don't trust corporations or the government, ever, period. It's like they're actively trying to fuck you. Anyway, I've been King Trout. I'll see you when I see you. Bye. So, just to answer some of your guys' questions, no, this is not the unsub kitchen. Obviously. No, this is not Rich's house, just because of the crack house joke. What are you standing there staring at me for? God, you're so selfish! Fucking bitch. The oven, laugh at that. Oh, you're crying, good. The oven opens fine. Yes, the faucet leaks. Do you want me to upload regularly, or do you want me to fix the faucet? This dog's Floki. He's a blue heeler and a pit bull. Bo, come here. Bo is a blue heeler. That's the other dog. Hi, baby boy. We're friends. Don't even make me, think about my bitch wife. Ow, he like dug his claws into me.
He's like, yeah, you fucking like that.
No, I don't.
We're friends.
You're my mortal enemy. Bo's my baby boy.